How has India contributed to biosciences globally, right? So that's the most interesting topic that we're going to see today as well. I welcome you all to today's video. I'm Dr. Vaishali, academic specialist at Biotechnica, and today we're going to see the celebrating India's top 10 contributions to biosciences. We're going to see right from, the 6th century BC Sushruta Samhita till the recent COVID vaccine research, right? So all of these, we're going to see what happened in between all of these. What are the major contributions that India has done in the field of life sciences or biosciences? Biotechnica, this video is sponsored by Biotechnica. Biotechnica is a space where we guide you in anything and everything regarding your bioscience career. Come, let's explore the topic. So first, we are going to talk about the 6th century BCE, right? So we're going to talk about Sushruta Samhita and Charaka Samhita that was invented or discovered by way back in 6th century BCE So this was a Sanskrit text on medicine and surgery, and it was the foundational text for Ayurveda. So even today, Ayurveda is a very, useful medical field for all of us out here. So yes, this Sushruta Samhita and Charaka Samhita was laid the foundation for this particular Ayurveda to pick up. So this was the first contribution for by India in the field of biosciences. The second contribution that we're going to talk about is in the year 1940s, that is pre-independence time, when Bengal was hit by a famine, right? So after Bengal was hit by this particular famine, what happened was the Indian government took up large-scale population study, large-scale population level surveys, and this involved multivariate statistics, right? So they studied as to what was the cause of this famine and what happened in humans because of this famine. So such studies were carried out, and multivariate statistics was used for this particular study. And of course, this was the interdisciplinary nature of biology. So it proved the interdisciplinary nature of biology. And soon after that, a lot of evolution and conservation biology studies also took place in India. After 1940s, we're going to look at 1950s, right? So what, major contribution was done by India in biosciences in the year 1950s. So the major contribution was the model organism as molecular genetic tool, right? We know we use a lot of model organisms these days to study the molecular level genetics or molecular level, studies for various diseases, etc. So this model organism was used way back in 1950s itself, and India helped in researching about these model organisms in detail, right? So the research was carried out in TIFR, that is Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai. So the work was majorly done on E. coli and Drosophila. So E. coli was the initial organism that was taken as model system and research was done, but an exhaustive research was then carried out in Drosophila, right? So this helped worldwide researchers to use, these as model organisms. And so we also studied as to how these organisms preserve their environment and how they respond to various changes. So these research was very much necessary, and it added value for, studying about model organism. So this rooted the model organism research in India as well, because after this as well, a lot of research was carried out in model organism, and even today it's being carried out, and the foundation was laid way back in 1950s. The fourth contribution that I want to talk about is the discovery of exotoxins, right? So India has big population, and in those days it was quite unhygienic and very poor living conditions. So it led to a lot of infectious diseases, and the spread was also quite quick, right? So in 1960s, one such disease was exhaustively studied, and that disease was nothing but cholera, right? So in Calcutta, the cholera toxin was discovered, and this led to understanding the clinical manifestation of cholera. Now, this understanding of this particular toxin, it laid the foundation for worldwide research on other toxins and other infectious diseases as well. Although this discovery did help India in understanding the manifestation of cholera, but worldwide as well, even though cholera was more or less confined to India and the larger population countries, even then, right? So other worldwide researchers used this, particular discovery of exotoxins as a fundamental research, so that they can research on other toxins and other infectious diseases as well. Now, the fifth contribution that I wanted to talk about is in the year 1960s, the discovery of atomic structural model of collagen, right? So this was done, this took place in Madras by Dr. Ramachandran and Gopinath Karta. So they helped in discovering the atomic structure model of collagen, and this was closely followed after the DNA structure discovery, as well as the alpha helices discovery, right? So soon after this, Dr. Ramachandran and Gopinath Karta discovered the atomic structure model of collagen, and this was a glorious contribution to the field of biosciences by Indian scientists. Now, following this, the sixth point, or the sixth contribution that I wanted to talk to you about is nothing but the Green Revolution, which happened in the year 1960s, right? So soon after independence, what happened was government really focused on, improving agriculture, because India is majorly an agrarian economy, and especially in those days, the agriculture was the most, the biggest occupation of Indians. So this Green Revolution was started to regain the control on agriculture. So government prioritized scientific research for advancing agriculture. So different type of researches was carried out in the field of agriculture, and a few such researches was on majorly on crop yield potential, improving the crop yield, on irrigation systems, because farmers, they relied on monsoon, and monsoon in India is very erratic. It's not predictable, right? So obviously their yield and all of that was also not predictable. So because of that, they had to do heavy research on irrigation system that can be used, and also with effective fertilizers and pesticides that can be used for the soil in India. So these researches happened during the 1960s, and it was termed as Green Revolution. Following this, in the year 1970s, especially the 3D architecture of protein was given. The research on 3D architecture of proteins was carried out, and this was again by Dr. Ramachandran and his colleagues, and we got what we call today as the Ramachandran plot. I'm sure most of you would have come across this plot in the 3D architecture of proteins, right? So it basically talks about the conformational space that a protein backbone will take up, right? So this is the initiation of molecular biophysics. So this was a big milestone in the field of biophysics and in the field of Indian scientists contributing to worldwide research in biosciences. So this was one of the major contributions that happened, that is the Ramachandran plot. So the eighth point that I wanted to talk to you all about is the DNA fingerprinting, which was, the research was basically done way back in 1980s. It was going on worldwide, and India also went ahead with fingerprinting, doing research in DNA fingerprinting. And in 1988, 1998, India developed a technique for DNA fingerprinting, right? So this was done by the CSIR lab, the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, right? And with this development of a technique, India was the third country to develop its own DNA fingerprinting probe. So this was a major contribution in the field of DNA fingerprinting, and this was dated way back in 1980s itself. Now, the ninth point that I wanted to talk to you about is the most recent research that's happening. That's the COVID-19 vaccine research, right? So we all have been impacted with COVID, times, the pandemic and everything. So, and all of you have kept tab about what has been happening with the COVID vaccine development and what is happening with, especially in India, and how you have got your own vaccination. I'm sure all of you have such experiences. So yes, COVID-19 vaccination program was rolled out in the month of January 2021, and within 10-month period, right, this COVID vaccine came out, right, after research. So generally a vaccine development will take 10 to 15 years for, coming out into the market. But COVID-19 vaccination program took just 10 months because of the emergency situation that was there. And two main vaccination or vaccines that was released during the most needed hour was Covishield from the Serum Institute of India, as well as Covaxin from ICMR and the Bharat Biotech collaboration. So these two vaccines were released at the most needed hour, the most emergency hour ever required. So this is about the COVID-19 vaccine research. Of course, this was a big milestone with respect to India's bioscience program, right? The last one that I wanted to talk about is the growth of biopharmaceutical industries in India, right? This is also a big contribution to bioscience from India's side, and it is definitely worth celebrating because today we have multiple biopharma sectors, biopharma industries in India, and also India is the third largest, biopharma sector by volume compared to every other country globally. So it's the third largest, and also 60% of global vaccine demand is taken up by India. India supports around 60% of this global vaccine demand. So yes, you can see how much we are exporting as well. It's not just for domestic supply of vaccines and drugs, but also for exporting as well. So we are also great exporters of drugs and vaccines. And how was the evolution of this particular biopharmaceutical sector in India, right? So in 1970s, it was only foreign companies that set up their pharmaceutical industry here. But in the second phase, that is 1970 to 1990, we had domestic companies also coming out. And in the year, in the decade of 1990 to 2010, liberalization came up. That is the LPG policy, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. So this came up, and with this, India was able to it was able to partner with foreign countries, take the technology from them, and then implement that in India as well. So this kind of collaboration happened in these years, and today we can see a large, humongous growth of biopharma industry in India, and we can see that India is the third largest by volume and 14th largest by the value that the biopharmaceutical companies adds to the global world. And this was definitely possible only because of the policy regulations and the support from the government. So with this, I am concluding this particular discussion, and we just saw what are the top 10 India's contributions towards biosciences, and I'm sure you all like the topic. Do let us know if there are any more contributions that you feel is worth celebrating. Thank you so much, and see you all until next video.